Just hoping they're not rushing on the writing, though. That's the problem when you come out
Bingo, yeah.
faster.
Yeah, but I mean, it's something to where I feel, in a sense, they've been working on it for so many years. They probably have so many ideas and so many stories that they're like, now let's go in this direction. Let's tune it up some, but now we can kind of go in this direction with it because we kind of opened this world up more. Like, especially with this last one, with Evil Dead Rise. So it'll be really interesting to see what they do with it, and I hope they do crank them out. But I do agree, James. Even though I do feel like they have some ideas and stuff together, I hope it's not rushed. But I hope it's faster than because the last one came out 2013. So let's say hopefully quicker than every 10 years. Maybe even if you
Oh
cut
yeah,
that,
yeah.
even if you cut that in half, wouldn't be bad. Of course, we'd want them even sooner than that, but you cut them in half. I mean, shit.
Well, what I would love to see with the contemporary Evil Dead films is maybe about 4 more films, and then actually bring the Deadites far enough in that it's actually like a plague, and the world against the Deadites, and that opens up for a whole other realm of Evil Dead.
Oh man,
I think that might be what Raimi eventually wanted to do. Like everybody's like, okay, well, what's the best possible thing? Well, what if it got out? What if Ash didn't save the day? At some point, somebody's not going to save the day. And as we saw in Evil Dead Rise, Deadites can jump from people to people, and then they can go in a nice little cabin wherever the fuck they are, and so it lends well to, because Deadites fall in that weird area of supernatural and zombie.
Yeah.
And you can have a lot of fun with that.
Oh yeah. Now with that idea though, Trevor, do you think it would work better as a series? And maybe the big whatever is the movie.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think a movie in that direction, because of the spectacle of it, would make sense. But continuing as a television show, at some point, it's the big thing is, are people going to keep the Evil Dead scripts fresh and not cut corners that it just becomes corny? And so far, Raimi has been really, really good about making sure that he picks directors, and he doesn't always get his wish, but he at least gets basically final, and that I we trust this director. So we'll see.
Yeah, maybe interesting to see what they do next with that.
I mean, it seems like every horror franchise has to have some down period of really bad stuff and then revive, but we'll see.
Yeah, but I mean, honestly, Evil Dead really didn't have anything really bad in my opinion.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. I mean,
I don't hate it. I don't care for it as much as a lot of people do. But Army of Darkness, I'm not a big fan of it. It's okay.
I love Army of Darkness.
I love it too.
It was a lot more entertaining when I was a teenager.
Yeah.
To rewatch it now, the comedy influences are so obvious that you just kind of go, oh, but it's still fun.
It's fun. I'm just not crazy about that one. Like part 2 is, if you want to go with the originals, part 2 is my favorite.
Well, part 2 is the one to start with.
Yeah.
Yes.
Evil Dead 1 is a jewel, but it is arguably more gross than the second one. But besides that, the second one has everything else going for it.
Agreed. But again, 2013 is my favorite out of the whole thing.
Yeah.
So I would go with that one, then part 2, I think. Now I'm not sure after that. I'm not sure after maybe part 1, then Rise, and then the other one.
Cool.
But people, that's not why we're here.
Mm.
Not why we're here. We're here to discuss this movie right here, Matinee, with the man, the myth, the legend. I forgot his name.
John
Oh,
Goodman.
Goodman.
I forgot his name for like 2 seconds. Real play. I was like, I know his name is John. What's his last name? I know it's not Candy. It's the other one. Yes, John
You're on a
Goodman.
flow. You're on a flow too. You're going until you're like the legend. You're like, fuck.
Yeah,
No.
and there was no point leaving the screen up and just leaving like a blank. I'm just gonna be honest with you guys, man. Sturdy, sometimes I slip up. We forget. No
That's
point.
funny.
Man, this is live. Like if it was
Mm.
pre-recorded, I could re-record that shit. Like, all right, here's the intro. I know the guy's name now. Nah, this is live. Boom, forgot his name. Sorry, but yeah,
Mm.
John Goodman. Shout out to you. Which he was in some shit. He was in the Flintstones, guys. The fucking
Mhm.
Flintstones.
Yeah.
Flintstones movie. Yeah. Live
And
action.
Roseanne. And I'm not talking about the Connors. I'm talking about Roseanne when it was
Oh yeah.
man, back in the day. I love that show. I didn't watch the newer shit even without all the controversy and all that. I don't really care for certain movies that I give a different respect for, but shows like rebooted and remade, it just feels different. It just
Mm.
feels way too different. And I'm just like,
That shit you're used to them as kids and they're all adults now. You're like, nah.
yeah, because I can still
Yeah.
go back. Because you know what it is too. Like I can still go back to it and watch like the older shows and the adult jokes. Well, one for right now, I understand it, so I'm like, oh shit. So this is why my parents were laughing. You nasty motherfuckers. And- but you know what I mean? For all that shit, and then you still laugh at the childhood shit you would laugh at because you still remember those little kiddie jokes you would laugh at, and it doesn't hit the same when they remake the shows like it does for a movie. Some movies they can do good and they're cool. Some movies it's like whatever. But I feel like shows, I feel like it's more missed than hit. I could be wrong.
I
But
I think television shows have more of a direct nostalgia with people that nowadays the adage is parents are letting their kids grow up on their iPads. When I
oh,
was a kid, it was the other way. It was you're letting the television raise your kids. Well, out of necessity, times you did. And I think several generations that still were focused on TV being the main device in the house,
mhm.
those television shows have much more nostalgia for us. They
Yeah,
directly connect to our childhood. So when you try to reboot it, or even better, reboot it with like a 10-year span of age where the
mhm.
middle is missing, it just doesn't have the same, it's like those people who, have to go out and collect VHSs and they still have functioning square televisions or have, worked out that they can run, VHS, is they're so obsessed with nostalgia. But that's a very small part of
Yeah.
the populace. Television, though, yeah.
No, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And it's funny because it's like the after school specials and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
TGIF,
Mm-hmm.
all those shows, like it would feel good. It was awesome to get home from school, whatever the case may be, or
Mm-hmm.
4 or 5 o'clock. You do your homework, you do what you got to do, and it's like, boom, I'm watching this, I'm watching that. Saturday, I'm watching this, I'm watching that. And yeah, when it's remade, it's just like, I'll try it out. Like I want to watch that '90s show, but I'm scared. I'm just like,
I
I
watched the
didn't
first
even
season. It's pretty.
bother to,
I watched the
you
first
know,
season. There's some funny parts, but it's more. It leans towards more like Disney. It's
uh,
like Full House type. It's
it
like
took all the fun raunchiness away, didn't it?
yeah, kinda.
And that's what I'm saying right there. Like if you're gonna remake the show and redo the show,
mm-hmm.
keep the good shit in it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And if you guys think it's gonna be problematic,
They
you guys
simple
gotta
little stuff in, like Red's in it. The father.
Yeah,
Eric Fowler.
I know, but still,
He still does his shit like Dumbass and all that stuff, but
it needs to be the same. I mean, the '90s weren't soft.
yeah,
The
true.
'90s weren't 2024.
But yeah, I watched it just to give it a shot, and I was like, okay, it's a little bit better than I thought, but it's not like great.
God, The Monster Squad is one of the most problematic films ever made, but still everybody loves it.
Yeah.
So but it's a beautiful example of where culture was circa 1990s and late
Yeah.
1980s.
Compared to where it is now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of nostalgia, the movie that you guys watched and invited me on here has a lot to do with nostalgia.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
Which
yeah.
I want to say this. I want to talk about the movie experience. And this movie is actually a perfect example of it. I wish that for maybe not for every single movie, but for specific movies, let's just use the horror genre. Well, shit, you can use any genre, I guess. But you got like what you got from this movie, as far as what it set out to be, with with the action going on and the stuff going on, the guy dressed up as the ant and the thing, and the little fun stuff going on during the film. I think that would be such a fun experience. But again, you have it to where you say you're in a theater. Theater 14 is what does that. So you want it like that experience, you go to theater 14. Theater 10 does not do that. So it'll be over here, it'll be regular, it'll be normal, it'll be quiet. But I think that would be a fun experience to where it's like, even if you're gonna pay an extra $2, so what? It'd be fun to do. I would do it. I'd watch the movie regular first. And be like, all right, I gotta see this with the experience because this is gonna be fun as fuck.
Well, the thing that's really hilarious is now, of course, Wosley, who is the filmmaker played by John Goodman, it's way over the top, and it's more than any schlockmeister showman ever did. But this kind of stuff was very common in the 1950s and toward the beginning of the 1960s. There's this wonderful film. It's called The Tingler by William Castle.
That's all summer.
Well, it came out roughly around 1959. William Castle is actually the man who Wosley is most modeled after, because his thing was, how do you make the movie experience even better? And with him, take the example, The Tingler. The Tingler, which was a Vincent Price vehicle, was about this weird thing that would attach itself to your spine, and it could eventually kill you. And the schlock level that Castle did was, seats in theaters randomly were actually wired for individual scenes that when the Tingler attached, the seats would shock.
That's cool.
So this is like, what was really going on with a lot of what we like to consider B horror movies nowadays, or B monster movies. William Castle, one of the big ones was, you'd be given a certificate by Lloyd's of London that if you die while you're watching this film, we will give so much money to your family. Kathy Moriarty's character, who is the woman connected to Mr. Wosley, is a nurse outside the theater in what was done by many, many filmmakers, especially by Castle, and that is having a nurse on standby or doctor on standby. These various kind of scopes and things like that. William Castle was doing it for years, and he was the best at it. But Wosley, on top of William Castle, also is very much, and we'll talk later about it, is very much like a Roger Corman. And he's also very much like Samuel Arkoff, who was a director and a producer, but owner of American International Pictures, and he was a distributor. So the gentleman that Wosley wants to, impress, Mr. Spector, is basically like Samuel Z. Arkoff at the time. And so this is all like movies like this happened.
Okay.
They weren't as, like crazy, but yeah, they were doing those kind of schlocky stunts
That'd be a cool experience,
all the
though.
time.
That's what I'm saying though. Like, if I ever get a theater, that's one thing that will be happening. There'll be maybe 2 or 3 screens. That's it. But one screen only. It's going to be like that. The other 2 are going to be normal.
Mhm.
But actually, here's how it'd be. I don't even care if I'm throwing this idea out there. One screen would be like that. One screen would be just black and white with whatever movie I can get on there, and one screen would be the normal in color. Boom. It has 3 different experiences. Fun.
Is there some theaters have the rumble seating?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There's rumble
Actually
seating these days.
was
That's like the farthest
that-
they go these days. It's like rumble
Yeah.
seating. They won't like shock you or anything. They're like, hey, we'll just.
Well, I mean, you don't want to
like
you don't want to
that.
have something that may harm somebody. But I would say with the rumble seating, you could do more. Maybe have it more like of a vibration shake, kind of move around, not too much. Of course, you have the warning and all that shit.
Mm.
But yeah, because you really want. I feel like there's times where you really want that. It's like a horror movie. You really want that experience. You want something to just jump up and try not to swing. Though that's the thing. If you swing, if you hit, you get kicked out.
Yo,
You're
I'm
not
waiting
going to
for
get arrested the first time.
I'm waiting for someone to make a movie theater where you go in, you get into your seat like a rumble seat type thing. It's like a gaming chair, and you got the VRs on, and it's like you're in the damn movie, and everything's moving and you're moving around with it.
They've tried doing stuff like that in Japan, I think.
Of course they did. Japan always thinks of this shit like 10 years before everybody else.
Well, they able to afford it, so
Of course.
Yeah.
But like I said off before we went live, when I was watching this, I was really confused. I was like, are they calling this a horror movie because the guy in it made a horror movie? Or is it because this is happening through the missile crisis, the Cuban Missile Crisis? But it was just like a side story. It wasn't even a major story. The creating of this movie and this experience with John Goodman was the main story. So I'm like, where's the horror part? But the movie was still good. I liked it. It was like to me, it was like a family movie. Mm-hmm. Like you could sit down with your family and watch it. It's like you said, it's nostalgic. It brings you back. You're like, oh, I remember like movie theaters being somewhat like not like 50s, but some stuff is familiar. Like you go into how movie theaters were and shit. And I'm like, oh, this is cool. Or it reminds you of other movies that you've seen, older theaters and stuff. And the creature features, that would be so cool. You go outside of the theater and they have giant ant legs connected to the theater and at the head, that'd be so cool looking. I'll be taking pictures like every time. We gotta go to the theater. I gotta take a picture out front.
And going back to it though, James, like from this movie and from other fun horror movies that we've watched where they take place in a theater where they're doing all these fun little themes like this, that is what would drive people to go to the theaters more because you're getting that fun experience. That's where you're getting those people that like to be loud in theaters. It's like, now I can be loud with these people. You know what I mean? Because now it's not frowned upon here because once there's a jump scare, there's going to be a real jump scare. Once there's a big laugh, there's going to be a big laugh. Once there's this, there's going to be this. And I feel, why the fuck not? Why isn't that out there?
Well,
like just
jump in real quick because I don't want to forget, James, you are not alone with wondering why this is a horror movie. So when it came out in 1993, it bombed. It bombed massively, partially because audiences weren't ready for a film like that, even though the following year Ed Wood came out and it became a huge thing. It was just a little too early for this kind of weird nostalgic meta film. So Dante, best known for Piranha, The Howling, Inner Space, but especially the Gremlins short-lived franchise, was not really a horror director per se. But
okay, true.
They didn't know even though it is literally basically like let's take Stand By Me, but also mix it in with this amazing love letter to cinema at that time period. I mean, so yeah, it's not a horror movie. The only horror that's really in the film is the paranoia that
Mm-hmm.
comes from, they're living in Florida in the Keys, so they're only 90 miles away from Cuba in the midst of the Cuban Missile Crisis. There's actually less paranoia in the film than you would expect because
Yeah, that's what
it
threw me
does this
off.
beautiful job of portraying teenagers and that their life is their life. They're just out and whatever.
Yeah,
Like, oh
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
we're
You've
invincible.
got the one there that's really outspoken, but everyone else is like, I want to date her. Oh yeah, there might be a new
Yeah,
girl. Oh, she's cute. It did a beautiful job of showing that insular way that teenagers can look at society.
yeah.
But you got to remember that this was the closest we had ever come to nuclear war after years and years of Red Scare. And then after we dropped the bomb, we basically said, okay, other people can drop the bomb. And there was a lot of fear. There's a reason why in the 1950s you have all these big insect movies, like Mantis and Them, which is about ants. So there, boom, you have that, which is a paranoia. But at the same time, you also have McCarthyism and the blacklist. And it's even said in the film at one point about how, he was able to get so-and-so to do whatever. Oh, that person's been blacklisted, which meant at the time, if you were brought up in front of McCarthy and his team of wonderful idiots, and somebody said you were a commie until you gave up other people. So
Wow.
this is a time when it was really hard to be an artist in the United States. One of the biggest, like, okay, I'll throw my friends in front of the bus actors was Ronald Reagan. So there you have that, which is a constant fear because, all somebody would have to say is your material is leftist and leaning. So you have that going on. And that's where the horror kind of lies. You also have, there's a reference to how the PTA wants to ban the film. Yet again, everybody was very easily, when you mix in the Cuban Missile Crisis, and then you have these two guys that are standing in front of the theater and yelling about how this is horrible and it's work of the devil, which those particular actors are very, very important in the film, but that's the paranoia. That's as close to horror as it gets. It is, I don't know, like Stand By Me meets Ed Wood
Okay,
in its own way. So.
yeah, that makes sense.
But no, one of the things that made it bomb and pretty much kill Joe Dante, they get mixed up pretty much. Joe Dante's career was that they didn't know what to market it to, but it got some of the best ratings that year of any film.
Really?
I mean, it was,
Wow.
it was amazingly critically acclaimed, but they didn't know what they had. The meta film didn't really exist, and it was, I think, pre The Player. So,
Wow. Oh, Doctor Sleep. That's cool. I've never seen this one yet.
was it Dr. Sleep?
I see that one.
Yep. I haven't watched it yet. I read the book. Well, I did the audio book.
I've put it off because I am such a huge fan of Kubrick's Shining. So,
For
if you're free next Thursday,
I like The Shining also. and I audiobooked Doctor Sleep.
Same.
The book is always better.
Oh, of course.
But the movie, I didn't think it was.
King is very wordy, but with him being very wordy comes a lot more content in those books.
Exactly. So,
Yeah.
so Doctor Sleep was the movie. It wasn't bad. I can say that it wasn't bad. It explained a lot of things, like from the book and everything. Like from the first movie, I didn't know what The Shining was. I thought they were just in a haunted hotel and the father got possessed. I didn't know it was like, it's about the dude. Because the kid had a special power and shit.
All this other shit. Yeah.
So I was like, the fuck? But anyways, we'll talk about that next week.
Yeah, that's gonna be good. Like I said, I've never seen the movie, so I'm excited for that.
Well, I mean, looking at Matinee is, say, if we remove the moniker of horror, did you guys enjoy the movie?
Oh, I enjoyed it. Yeah, I said that to Aaron. I messaged him. I was like, hey, because I thought I was watching the wrong movie. Because I looked up Matinee. There's a movie called The Matinee. It's a slasher film. It came out 2020. So I was watching this. I was like, this is not a horror movie. So I was like, yo, Aaron, you sure this? I was like, am I watching the right movie? And he sent me the picture. I was like, oh, okay. Because I was like, this is not horror. I was like, because I told him the other one. I was like, it came out 2020. It's a slasher. He's like, no, that's the right one because it's the CFF movie. I was like, okay. So I watched it, but I was like, then I wrote to him. I was like, it's a good movie. I was just expecting horror, but no, it was like good acting. I like the story. It's like kid is moved to town, like no friends, makes friends and shit. It's like a little mini stories through thing. He makes friends with the guy who's making the film and doing the fucking. Yeah, it was pretty cool.
Yeah, Wosley. You know, you said about little things, and I want to point something out. It's very important in the beginning of the film. Excuse me. When Gene is sitting at the recess playground, he's got a Famous Monsters of Filmland in his hand. So this was a magazine that started printing in 1958. Forey J. Ackerman was the editor, and this magazine at that time literally took the place of every horror fan today connecting via any chat room, any group or whatever. One magazine was your Bible if you were that kid that loved monsters. It was also where you heard about old monster movies. And then it got you wanting to actually try to find these films. Because at the time, if it's not in a theater, you're shit out of luck. So that's very, very important. That's a little thing. But Gene is a monster kid. And, it was that generation of monster kids that Joe Dante was. There's, especially in this film, a very autobiographical quality. So at that time, Dante would have been about that old in 1962. And that kid reading Famous Monsters of Filmland, having to get to the next crazy movie, the one that sits there and somebody asks him some simple question about a monster movie, and he starts going off. Joe Dante was one of those many kids. Your whole bulk of 80s directors, that was their kid. So that was them when they were kids, and that's what kept them together. They communicate through Famous Monsters of Filmland. And another thing is in the theater, every on the marquee and every one of those posters are films that came out in the year of 1962.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So it's when you look at the movie that way, it even spreads the horror thing thinner because it really has this wonderful I can't speak autobiographical quality when you just look at Joe Dante.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now you said you see this in theaters, Trevor?
Yeah, I did see it in theaters, and it was great. It's very sad in a couple ways. Now Dante has remained very active, and he is starting to do work again. But I don't know how official this is, but it did come up on a reputable news site. Actually, Mick and I were joking today about, what if Joe Dante would get together with Roger Corman before he died, because Roger Corman discovered Joe Dante, and he and who's ever left of the Roger Corman training camp, like Martin Scorsese, would do a film. Joe Dante has officially been attached to a remake of Little Shop of Horrors. Now, I hope this actually happens. And it happens before Corman passes away. And Corman's like, God, he's like 90 something, like 95 or something. But he's nonstop. So, it's funny, we talked about that today, and it looks like that might happen.
That'd be crazy.
And take it back to the original Little Shop of Horrors, which is a straight up horror film.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I remember that.
It was great, but that was our image of it in that time period.
Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh, I haven't seen that.
The first one had Jack Nicholson, having his little Audrey, to eat people, and legitimately eat them.
Oh man, I gotta watch that again. It's been years.
Mm-hmm.
Child.
Feed me, Seymour.
There you go. Little Shop of Horrors. I wanted to dive into ratings before we forget.
Oh yeah.
Let's see. James, would you rate this one?
I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it better now that a lot of it was explained. I'm going to give this one a 7.
Cool.
That's fair. How about you, Trevor?
Ooh. 8.5.
Ooh.
Because I do enjoy the movie more each time I watch it. Because there's a lot of little stuff going on.
Yeah, there is.
Mm-hmm.
I did enjoy the movie. I had a good time. A little less of a good time than you, James. I gave it a 6.5.
Mm-hmm.
Not a bad movie at all. I think if it was more like I again explained, I did enjoy it more, and with the horror elements, I did enjoy it. But if it had more of a turn towards horror, I would have enjoyed it a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
Or the elements towards horror. But I love the concept, and I love the theater was like my favorite part of this damn movie. I'm just like, that in real life would be so damn fun. Of course, what happened, but what they were going for. What they were going for was such a cool, fun idea.
Especially the mindset, like, we're going to put this little miniature earthquake machine up in this place and have this whole building shake.
Which was just crazy.
Where if you turn it up too high, it's going to crumble the building. The whole top floor caves in.
Yeah.
Like, what the hell?
Right. We don't need the earthquake machine, but just everything else that happened. Like, for example, the part where the lady's looking back and she's like behind you, she screams, and the dude with the ant suit pops up and he starts running around and shit. Like, stuff like that would be cool.
Yeah.
Of course, if it fits the theme, but this, oh my gosh.
Yeah, put that one dude in a panic. That fucking guy he was the most paranoid fucking person in the world. The owner of the theater.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
with the radio in his pocket and shit. Mm-hmm. Oh my god.
Well, another thing, as far as, really appreciating, that this movie is actually telling, pretty much a real story. Of course, some of it is, over the top, but between, 1959 and 1962, these are some of the movies that actually were released. Manster, The Killer Shrews, The Wasp Woman, The Giant Leeches, and The Alligator People. And the list goes on.
I want to watch them all.
By 62, you started seeing things like The Pit and the Pendulum and Premature Burial and that whole Gothic thing kind of take over. But no, so Wosley is like William Castle toward the end of his career, where he's just trying every conceivable new concept to just keep his livelihood going, which then eventually William Castle went on to just direct films and things of that nature. But he was William Castle had a big old cigar. Samuel J. Arkoff also had a big old cigar, and the opening of the film, in which Wosley is seated there and talking about, I have a new film. It's called Mant. It is almost line for line taken by the introductions for most of William Castle's films: Tingler, Homicidal, Dr. Sardonicus, 13 Ghost, which was eventually remade, and I think remade again. But no, that he's the main guy that Wosley's supposed to be, as far as a character in real life.
Okay.
Nice. Is this something you guys would watch again? This movie here?
I mean, if it was on, I'll watch it. Yeah. I mean, yeah, it was good. But like you said, I say every time, Aaron, you know me, I go for new stuff. I hardly go back and rewatch stuff.
See, I'm more towards the middle with that now, James. Like, there's certain shit that I'm always going to go back and watch. I'm never going to not do that. I'm never going to apologize for doing that. But then there's ones where I'm just like, you know what? I really don't need to see this again. Yeah, I'm good. I've seen it enough, or I'm good on it. But then there's just those ones where it's just like, nah. I gotta watch.
There's just so many movies out there I haven't seen. It's
I know.
Why wouldn't I choose something new? Like I'm not gonna. Why would I watch Friday the 13th again? After the 1000th time. But don't get me wrong. When I was younger, I watched the shit. I watched it a million times. Don't get me wrong. Mm-hmm. I think that's what it is. I think I just watched repeats of so many movies when I was younger.
You know what it is?
So but I missed out on a lot of movies.
Just to shoot Friday the 13th some bail is, at the very least, if you're a fan of it, and you're like, you know what? I'm only going to watch it on Friday the 13th. I'm going to watch as many as I can every Friday the 13th, or at least that weekend. I accept that. That's fair. That's
Jason
fair.
Voorhees, Jason Voorhees is my main horror icon. Always has been.
So, would it be a controversial statement for me to say that my favorite is Jason Goes to Hell?
Wait, what?
That is my favorite of the Jason films. Jason Goes to Hell.
A lot of people hate that one.
I guess adore it. It's the most creative of the entire franchise.
Everybody hated that. A lot of people hated that one. I didn't mind it, but the hate that movie got,
it's definitely my least favorite. I'm not gonna lie to you, but I do get it. I do get it. Like, I've heard other.
No, you're right. It was creative, the storyline, but but that's the thing. People are listening to the storyline. Wait, what the hell are you doing to Jason? Mm-hmm. For one, how did a full body just rip out of a body with clothes and everything?
It didn't feel like a Jason movie, I guess you would say. It didn't feel like a Friday the 13th or a Jason movie.
It was weird.
It took a very interesting way of trying to. I mean, it was pretty much assumed at a certain point, Jason Takes Manhattan, that there's something supernatural. We just know this by now. But there was need to explain it even further, because they knew that, because I think it was New Line that owned the rights to both the Freddy films and the Jason films. They knew there was going to be a team at some point. And I think that was the idea. But yet again, I think the script and everything just got out of hand. I love the movie because it is so weird. It offers me everything other Jason films don't.
It makes sense.
Although I have to say the worst is Jason Takes Manhattan, because that was the biggest opportunity.
I agree.
75 minutes of him just tearing people apart in Manhattan, and Manhattan's reaction to him would have been amazing.
Yep,
I agree.
Get rid of the boat and the teenagers and deliver that movie that we all saw the poster and went, yeah,
100%.
Agreed, a million percent.
I was so disappointed in that one. That is the worst one to me.
Then at the end of the movie, have him arm wrestle Mick Manhattan, just to do it for us. Just for
That's
us.
the only way you become king of Manhattan.
Yep, that's how he takes Manhattan, because he beats him in arm wrestling.
Mick is the final boss.
Or cuts his hand off with a machete because he gets pissed off. Either way, that's what we'll
You
take.
mentioned before about rewatchability. I would say this is either my 5th or 6th time
For this movie?
for this film. Yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
It's one of my. I'd have to say it's one of my favorite Joe Dante films all around.
But like you said, this one is nostalgia. It's like you can watch it over and over again. There's the little things in it you find.
I'd much rather watch this over and over again than watch Piranha or
100%
over and over again.
Okay.
Which
I
you know
could
were his like
see
big
that.
movie.
I could see that, because with Piranha, I love it. It was fun and all that stuff, but it's like how you can only watch that so many times. I'm not saying you can't watch it again and again, but it's like, okay, I watched it today. I'm not gonna watch it again for a few years. With this movie here, I can see myself watching it once a year for whatever reason. If you know what I mean, like I could see at least once a year, once every whatever. But yeah, this definitely has more of a rewatchability. I could see that. I could definitely.
It's
see
also,
that.
you know, I hate to say it, but it's a really cute movie. I mean,
oh yeah.
At the time, there was a lot going on. So, you know, it was, you know, maybe around 7-8 years before the Stand By Me came out. So, you know, like these, you know, children coming of age films. But this is the children coming of age films for us monster kids. You know, us kids that, you know, just kept to ourselves and we talked about our movies and all that kind of stuff. And then we'd, you know, all flock to the theater. You know, of course, it's being a different time period. But it was the movie where that ended up being the cool things. You know, us geeks that are into movies got the girls. We're the heroes. I love that about the film. Because, of course, Starkweather, who is a nice little jab to Charlie Starkweather, who was a spree killer at the time, to be the villain. You know, the nerds took out the bully, even though he was an utter idiot.
Yeah.
John Goodman character is like he's like total con artist too in this thing. Like because his machine broke. That they're like you destroyed my building. He's like, no, the kid he did it. He pointed at the kid was getting arrested already. He was like, he did it. What are you talking? It wasn't me.
He messed up everything. Which I mean, he did mess up a lot of shit.
Actually, he did. Yeah.
He caused all that, because had he not chased the kid and attacked him and all that other bullshit didn't happen, nothing would have happened.
I had like a dumb moment too, because I was like, I don't know why I thought like the 50s were like dinosaur years or something. But at the end, when he blamed the kid and the owner started flipping in that really old guy, was it Spectre?
Mr. Spectre.
Mr. Spectre was walking in with them, and he goes, "That's when you got insurance." I was like, "They didn't have insurance in 50." I was like, "Wait a minute, yeah, they did." I was like, "What the fuck is wrong with me?" I was like, "They're not that old."
He was 62, so yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I was like, "They're not that old. There was insurance back then. What the fuck is wrong with me?"
It's you know, it's just one of those things. You kind of see the style of it, and you think it's older than what it really is, because we, in the back of our minds, I feel like we still have that little kid brain where it's like, yo, 1950 is so old.
Like, damn, you're so old.
Or it's like you're saying a certain age is so old, but then you're like, yo, fuck, man, I'm like right around the corner from that certain age. It's not that old.
Yeah,
we used to talk a lot of shit when we were kids.
I caught myself. I felt so dumb when I finished the sentence in my head. Like I was talking to myself in my head. I was like, what the fuck is wrong with me?
Oh, that's fucking funny. That's fucking funny.
The other thing that, you know, I think people didn't really get when it first came out, and, you know, nowadays with directors like Wes Anderson, and just, you know, how, you know, even look at Fallout, how Fallout is. It has a very, you know, kind of almost plastic quality to it. This film, you know, presents 1962 in total prestige. Like, there's, you know, not dirt on the road. There's, you know, it is supposed to kind of look a little off and a little fantasy-esque. And I think at that time it kind of confused some people too. And yet again goes back to it, James. A lot of people, went in with the idea like, oh, it's Joe Dante. Oh, it's a horror movie. But you'd think when you put John Goodman on your movie poster, people would go, well, this is a comedy. But
there's a little comedy in it. They had it. They made him poke at his fallout shelter. He's like, "Where'd you get this?" He's like, "Oh, I bought it out of the magazine or something."
Mm-hmm.
So that's why it's easily they took it apart like it was nothing. They're like,
yep,
like you dumbass, you ordered this shit. It's like today, don't order the shit over a line. Like, where'd you order this? Amazon? You dumbass.
No, at that time, it probably would have still been Sears and Roebuck. Yeah. The Amazon since the 1920s.
Yep. This here, though, I mean, again, you kind of horror-ish. I think it'd be a good introduction for kids for horror, for ones that aren't into it at all, just because the little elements it does have in there, it's not over the top at all. It's real silly. It's like a fun, funny way. And it's not a lot. It's not like in your face all the time a lot. So it'd be kind of a little more than subtle, I guess you would say.
They showed a lot of scenes of the Mant movie.
Mm-hmm.
There was like zoom up of I thought that the Ant-Man dude looked pretty cool.
I did too.
Oh, that was very well made. Yeah. I love the explanation of somehow an ant's saliva gets into his bloodstream.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It was just.
It must have happened. The only way it happened at exact the same time. This happened.
Excuse me.
We're like, what? What? How the doctor was explaining it? It was like the ant. He must have something happened at this exact time when this happened. He got bit. That's how he mutated. Like, okay, try to make scientists. You try to make it turn into like
some scientific,
like Incredible Hulk shit, like gamma rays type thing.
Turn to a damn ant.
But no, you gotta do that in those movies, man. Like, how did this happen? An ant just bit him. There's something wrong with the ant. Yeah, it's a radioactive fucking ant, like Spider-Man, you know.
That time the movies basically had to do with something. It was in the 1950s when you had the monster and creature features. It was usually either atomic, it was something that was somewhat damning to science because science did this, or it was a Red Scare film based on the xenophobia of people from outer space.
Yep.
Yeah, those three
things. Space monsters. Yeah.
Yeah. So those were massive and those were big, and a lot of them were made about as well as the Mant movie.
Yeah.
I have a very large part of my heart for I remember on network television, especially on Sundays, where I first got my taste of Godzilla, was also where I first got my taste of The Fly.
Yeah, The Fly.
Them.
Yep.
All these movies, that I don't know if they have a great rewatchability as I get older, but I still feel very, nostalgic about them.
Mm-hmm.
I think we used to be like, you spoon fed us initially with Godzilla and big monsters from the 50s and 60s or alien invasions. And now I think people just kind of jump in with like, well, this is a horror film. So.
Yeah. But this was definitely a fun watch. Wow. Get your words out there. Mm-hmm. Definitely a fun watch. And again, it's at the very least worth a one-time watch. I think it's worth more than one. I just don't know when I would get to it again because, like you were saying, James, for the most part, I do try to watch newer I won't say newer to me, because it could be a newer movie to me that came out in 1987 that I've never
that's what I mean.
seen.
Yeah, something I've never seen before. That's what I mean.
So newer to me. Let me rephrase that when I say that. Newer to sturdy. If I've never seen it, it's newer to me. I don't care when it came out. But
kind of the way I view it. Yeah.
Yeah. How did you not see that? It didn't come across my radar.
I find more joy now going deeper down roads of different countries and different genres and finding something that really genuinely, appeals to me and, makes my, my ears prick up, and versus what's coming out now in horror and science fiction. There's good stuff. It's just like everything else, of course, the major studios, diarrhea most of the time. But, even now, it's harder to find the indie stuff because there's so much stuff like, pressed in our faces and how many different streaming programs. So,
yeah, it's true.
So
True.
freaking many. Freaking many. You're right about that. You're right. Oh my God.
How many shark movies do you have to get to before you get to something else?
Or a good one.
Yeah. They're doing one with a 3-headed shark that's coming out sometime this year. It looks adequately pathetic.
Nice. Some of those are fun as hell. Don't get me wrong. But then there's some are just like, this isn't fun. It's just bad.
I think you had a 3-headed one. I think it was like 3-headed shark attack or something.
There's plenty. Yeah. There's plenty.
So dumb.
Oh man, I can't wait to watch another shitty shark movie. That'll be coming up at some point. People, don't worry.
I'd rather watch those than Sharknado, though. For some reason, I have a hate for Sharknado.
Same here.
I don't know why.
I just cannot. Is it Tara Reid?
No, because I like the movie we just reviewed with Tara Reid in it.
What movie was that?
The fucking
Charlie's Farm.
Charlie's Farm. I thought that movie was awesome.
That's right.
I thought it was Tara. I just think it's stupid. A tornado that has a whole bunch of sharks in it. It's so stupid. I don't know.
But one of the many, at the time, if it was made by Sci-Fi, the television station, it was made for no money at all, and their productions look that way. And that was my biggest thing about Sharknado. It looked painfully cheap.
Painfully cheap, and somehow the CGI is like overdone. Like it wasn't good. It's just like they just cranked up the dial. They're like, "Yo, we're gonna make this shark look like ridiculously CGI," where everybody could tell. A fucking newborn baby can tell this is CGI.
Oh, this is bad. Start crying when the baby sees it. Start crying because that shit's on.
Just the Sharknado, like the tornado with the sharks, made no sense. Clownado made more sense than the Sharknado. You ever watched Clownado?
I'm not sure. I think so. It wasn't good. No,
it's like a tornado of supernatural clowns. It's like a supernatural tornado of clowns.
Yep.
Oh, you're talking about an Insane Clown Posse show.
Yeah, that's who maybe.
So it's a movie about really fucked up juggalos. Wait, that's
yeah, Clownado. I was like, what the fuck is this? I watched that before, and I was like, all right. But Sharknado, for some reason I hate it. I don't know.
I'm with you.
And there's like 9 of them now. Sharknado in space. There can't be a tornado in space. What the fuck are you talking about?
That's the only one I want to see, is if there's one that goes to space. Because I have, you know what? I'm not gonna say it on the live. Matter of fact, we're gonna wrap this one up. Listen, people.
Yeah.
You gotta go check out our amazing guest Trevor and Ambassador Radio.
For having me.
Of course. This guy knows his shit. Not just movies, but music and a bunch of other knowledge, shows. Everything. He calls it useless knowledge. I call it very important knowledge, because someone's gonna want to know about it. Yeah, someone's gonna want to know about it. And then, of course, you can check myself and James out, co-host over on Popcorn and Pints every Saturday at 9:00. We are back this weekend doing Highlander and Short Circuit. Someone on here really loves one of those movies and really hates the other. You'll find out which and who. I'm not going to give you any spoilers. And of course, be on the lookout for Horror Source 30 every Thursday at 8:00 Eastern Time. And under the same umbrella, Bastardo Vision every Friday at midnight. Technically Saturday at 12 a.m. This weekend, we are doing Leatherface, Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 3.
That's a good one.
And Shocker. So a doubleheader.
Yeah.
TCM 3
is not given as much love as it should have been.
And Shocker. I only watched it one time very recently, so it'll be a fun rewatch because I don't really remember it. But tune in for that, people. We'll be watching that live tomorrow. or reviewing that live tomorrow, not watching that. I'll see you in your nightmares. Peace.
Peace.
Thank you guys very much.